Good morning and welcome to the Stahls TV Morning Show. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Ellsworth.
And I am Zach Ellsworth. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're going to cover today. We plan to talk about the evolution of the sporting goods market. So we're going to review some reports that have been put out by Team Insight magazine. We'll talk a little bit about how you can enter the sporting goods market, maybe in a bit of a non-traditional way through the cheer market. We'll talk with Courtney Kay about that. And then we'll also kind of teach you some principles to guard against what's happening in the sporting goods market right now, how it is evolving. Some people in evolution, obviously, it's kind of, you think survival of the fittest when you think of the word evolution. So how can you be the fittest in this market or whatever market that you're in?
Good. Let's sit down and go over the evolution of the sporting goods market and talk about what's happening out there. We thank you for attending the Stahls TV Morning Show as usual. This broadcast can be watched after the fact on stahlstv.com. It'll be published later today. So first, when you look at the sporting goods market in general, I think it's important to define the sporting goods market to our viewing audience.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think sporting goods, we're going to talk basically the four major sports in the U.S. Although there are all kinds of different sports that people play, we're talking team sports like football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, those types of things is what we're going to focus on today. So there are a number of different things affecting this team sports market, but one of the major reports that came out of this Team Insight magazine was a decline in the participation of people in these sports. So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the NSGA actually tracks this and has been reporting on sports participation levels for over 30 years. And in their latest report, which was released just last month, it cites a 2.1% decline in overall participation in team sports.
Which, how many people do you think that affects? It's probably a really big number because there's tons of kids. If you think about kids playing Little League and
you're talking about entire
school
teams. It's not a decline on an individual sport, which some of those are up as cited in the report. But when you talk about any percentage decline in team sports, we're talking substantial numbers of uniform buyers, apparel buyers, whatever it might be, that's getting decorated. And you couple that 2.1% decline with the decline on the previous year from 2013 to 2014 of 1.8%. And we're starting to see, I would say now, a trend of a decline in team sports.
Okay. Yeah, so how does that affect your business or a sporting goods business in general? I mean, obviously, if your market is shrinking, it means, one, less opportunity for people that you can sell to. Two, I'm guessing that means the competition is going to be stiffer because more people are fighting for less in the market now. So how does somebody who's watching the show deal, maybe not even necessarily in the sporting goods industry, but in general, how do you deal with a declining market space that you really specialize in?
Yeah, I think, common sense would be to try to sell more to those who are still participating. I mean, you can make a couple decisions. One, you can shift focus and focus on another market overall or just another part of the marketplace that you currently serve. But when it's such a across-the-board thing for team sports, you try to find those sports that maybe are flat to not declining as much or relatively up. In this case, soccer is one that's growing still. You try to focus some more attention there, and then you also try to sell to more than just the players themselves. I think there's some opportunity to explore there as well.
Yeah, and fanware. So this report that you looked at from the National Sporting Goods Association,
yes,
the NSGA, as you mentioned, what were some of the reasons that they gave for this decline in participation? There's got to be reasons there. That's the kind of question that I would be asking as a business owner, is why is this declining? Is there anything that I can do to kind of help fix that?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons for the decline, and I'd like to, as we're kind of going over these, let's go ahead and launch a poll, because what I want you to do with this poll is rate what you think is having the biggest impact on the decline in team sports participation levels. So I'll kind of read through your choices here. And the SFIA cites for why there are fewer children in active team sports. Number one reason that they cite is the decline in lack of quality of physical education in schools, particularly, so physical education programs. Also, they cite a heavy emphasis on travel ball at an early age and more or less young athletes focusing on doing great at one sport and maybe not participating in multiple activities, which leads to a decline from where maybe there was more participation level across multiple sports prior. They word it as youth addiction to electronic devices and social media, so just the natural tendency of youth to want to be in front of a computer or a tablet or a video game console, whatever it might be. And then lastly, just the overall rising costs for them to play at the school level with these sports. So vote on what you think is the #1 reason, and we're going to close that off and share the results. So 0% think the decline and lack of quality of physical education in schools. It looks like we have 20% that say it's because athletes are focusing on one sport, and then we're split 40 and 40 on the social media, electronic device addiction versus the overall cost to play. So when you look at these and you look at what our viewers are rating, is there a way to overcome some of this or capitalize on some of this?
Yeah, the pay-to-play costs, I don't know that there's much someone who's selling into this industry could do about that besides offer lower costs, because part of the cost pay-to-play is in the uniform decoration and all these different items that you're going to need. So maybe there's ways to creatively bundle that or kind of offset the cost, maybe help with fundraisers, find ways for the leagues to earn money to offset some of the costs for the players so they can participate.
Yeah, and I think that's an important concept, and it also ties to the way technology in general fits into a sales plan for sports, and we'll talk about that soon. But that can help to offset the cost. One of the areas that I wanted to pay special attention to was basically the athletes focusing on one sport, and really it's cited as travel ball, or basically committing to that. And when you look at trying to maybe not focus so much on the school sports activity of it, but appeal to travel ball and travel leagues and those athletes that are perhaps willing to buy more items within the sport that they're focused on, that's an opportunity.
Yeah, so specialize in one of those travel leagues depending on what's in your area. On that point as well, one of the reasons that kids or students or whoever are focusing on these travel ball leagues is to have that laser focus to get these performance edges in the particular sport that they specialize in. And that kind of leads to another point that was covered in the Team Insight magazine, is that there are lots of different fabric constructions to get these performance edges that's happening in the sporting goods industry. It's really evolved from, if you looked at it in the 1950s or 60s, and if you see the old footage of the football jerseys, it's all cotton jerseys that everybody's wearing, but I don't think anybody wears cotton anymore.
No, and we used to be able to report on a trend maybe 10 years ago that was performance wear, but it's no longer a trend in performance wear, it's a mainstay, and we start to look for the trends actually within the category of performance, because it's undeniable that athletes want performance fabrics. They want anything that shaves a second off of their 40 or stroke off of their golf swing, whatever it might be. They're looking for the edge up in performance. So we have to look into the actual category of performance wear to understand the evolution of performance wear itself and where that's trending. And you were at a show recently here at the Sports Inc. show this past weekend and saw a little bit about that. So I'm going to grab some garments from that show and let's point out some different evolution of performance garments.
Yeah, for sure. So our supplier of these garments today that we're going to take a look at is someone, their company name actually means targeted muscle performance. The company's called MyoGrid. Myo means muscle. The grid is targeted performance, and that's kind of exactly the way these garments are constructed. I'll let you talk a little more about it.
Yeah, so if we start with the basics of the line, which is the compression series, you see a lot of athletes investing in compression garments or base layer to give them that added performance. And what's unique about this particular line and where things are trending is it actually has, of course, a seamless technology, but you're starting to see performance zones. So rather than the whole garment just having performance wear qualities, you're starting to see particular zones and vented areas to wick away moisture to give increased breathability and ventilation, and you're starting to see targeted compression zones geared around core muscle areas that help with performance. So visit myogrid.com and you'll see some really good photos of this and some video content where you can kind of see, and that's spelled myogrid.com, and you can see this on some athletes to see what I mean by that targeted performance area. And then even just from an aesthetic standpoint, that looks cool, but you reported back when we talked earlier about this trend.
Yeah, and it's basically fashion entering the performance wear category. Most of the shirts, the off-the-field shirts that we saw at the show were all heathered and looked really fashionable, which is a trend basically that's hitting kind of the business world, and we'll talk about that next week in our episode on athleisure. But it's really fashionable looks that hit not only the athlete on the field, but the fans off the field, and they wear it to work.
Yeah, I think you'll start to see these heathered looks, and MyoGrid has in their line sort of a heathered look that's in the gray family or charcoal, which has been trending strong as a neutral for a while. You see it in a pink, and then they also have a navy blue within the line. So not only do you get increased performance from a compression and base layer standpoint, but you start to pick up on some of the retail trends, particularly in the leisure wear or the training gear, whether that's a hooded garment or whatever. Everybody wants to wear performance fabrics.
Yeah, so the challenge becomes, as performance wear kind of penetrates different markets outside of just the people who are on the field, the challenge becomes how do we decorate that, because that's really the industry that we're in. So how would our viewers go about decorating these technical fabrics? What are some of the best practices or best ways to do that?
Yeah, you know, when you look at performance wear in general, you can pretty much achieve any of the mainline decorating technologies onto performance wear, but there's definitely sort of a section with each decorating discipline that's geared towards performance fabric. So don't take your basic transfer that's designed for a cotton t-shirt and attempt to put that on performance wear.
Yeah.
You're going to scorch. You're not going to have the performance characteristics that match the garment. Don't take your typical screen printing and try to screen print onto performance wear. There's a whole set of inks, adhesives, and sort of dye inhibitors that are designed specifically for these fabrics that will help a decorator succeed. So heat printing certainly tops the list. Screen printing is strong for performance wear. I don't see a whole lot of embroidery other than small left chest sort of branding elements on performance fabrics. And of course, if it's poly-based, sublimation, which Courtney will talk about later in her segment, Make It Your Market.
Yeah, absolutely. So even though the look and the feel of performance wear is kind of exploding and expanding outside of the sportswear market, the market itself, the industry itself is actually tending to consolidate. We've seen that trend as well, where these larger sporting goods companies are buying out the smaller sporting goods companies for lots of different reasons. Basically, it's an easy way to add sales to the bottom line. It's an easy way to acquire talent through a sales force. But how is that affecting a lot of the decorators out there, this industry consolidation that we're seeing?
Well, the strong are getting stronger and the big bigger. So really, for the traditional brick and mortar sporting goods store, I think they're feeling most of the pressure.
Yeah.
The at-home decorator or the e-commerce business definitely still has its advantage in that it's lean, it can move, there's a space that it can exist and focus in. But if you look at the brick and mortar sporting goods store, they're probably feeling the majority of the pressure and trying to react to all these changing trends, specifically pressures from large sporting goods dealers that are acquiring companies with deeper pockets, and really a lot more from a sales force standpoint out in the field.
Yeah, so, but not only are they getting that sales force, I think a lot of these larger companies who are consolidating have the resources to put into that online store, and kind of they're finding ways to make it easier for their customers to do business. Because if you look at a sporting goods customer, it's normally an athletic director, it's a coach, but they have the whole team and the parents and the grandparents and legal guardians, all those types of people that they have to deal with. So these larger companies are putting together tools to where athletic directors and coaches can communicate a lot easier with the folks that they need to communicate with, from websites for registration to being able to place their orders online, to where there's not this administrative nightmare that happens for coaches and athletic directors.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess you could say that a lot of the evolution in the sporting goods marketplace is the evolution from sort of person to person or brick and mortar salesperson, where you're dealing with the athletic director, to really equipping that athletic director with the tools to make his job easier and going more towards the e-commerce business.
Yeah, so I mean, which one do you think is right? Obviously, brick and mortar and regional or outside sales folks have built relationships, and it's been the way the business has been for a while, but we do see it evolving to online. So what do you think the right mix is? Is it all one, all the other? Is there a nice mix in between?
I'm never a fan of an either or pitting one thing against another. I think it's definitely a combination, and it's the right mixture for your business. So if you're looking to get into the sporting goods industry, there's definitely places you can make your mark or make your market with e-commerce business and having a focus there. But if you're already established, I don't think you should abort the plan and move completely away from the face-to-face interaction and your brick and mortar. I still think that's an advantage, but you definitely have to evolve and place a focus on this e-commerce channel that can be quite big for your business. And it's bigger than just having a website that can accept the transaction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are certainly by no means the only experts on the sporting goods market. We actually had a chance to talk with Doug Wilcox from Bowmark Sports earlier this week. So we're actually going to play a portion of that interview now, just to give you his feedback and insight on the sporting goods industry.
Hi, I'm Josh Ellsworth with the Stahls TV Morning Show, and I'm joined today by Doug Wilcox from Beaumark Sportswear. Doug's the National Sales Manager at Beaumark Sportswear. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and kind of what you do at Beaumark, or what Beaumark is?
Yeah, I've actually been with Beaumark. This is my 20th year. We're a distributor of primarily athletic products, a lot of athletic apparel, a lot of blank apparel, but we also do have the licensed products from Majestic Athletic and Outdoor Cap that come already decorated with the Major League and Minor League logos on them.
Okay.
And then we also sell some sports equipment. We want to try to be a one-stop shop if anybody's in the league, team and league market. And myself, I've been in the industry pretty much my whole life. I've actually spent about 15 years on the other side first.
Okay.
So that's, I feel like that has helped me on this side because I can feel the customer's pain.
Yeah, I know. I see it all the trade shows, of course. The whole Stahls crew does. So I guess to share with our viewers, what are some of the hottest items right now at Beaumark or from Beaumark?
Well, always the league market is real big on the Major League and Minor League replicas that I mentioned a minute ago from Majestic Athletic and Outdoor Cap. Those are real popular for us. Right now, one of the hottest things we have is Augusta Sportswear is offering a Digi Camo t-shirt and 2-button that are actually, the pattern is screen printed on roll goods rather than sublimated. So whenever you decorate that product, you don't have to worry about the dye migration like you do if the pattern was sublimated. That's been a hot ticket for Beaumark Sportswear this year.
Yeah, I know that in some of our previous morning shows, a lot of customers are really keen to decorate those sublimated fabrics, and they have challenges with it, so it sounds like a solution they should take a look at.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Where do you kind of see things trending over the next 3 to 5 years in sort of the blank wearables for the sporting goods market?
That's really interesting that you asked that. I just had a conversation with a rep on the West Coast before I made this trip. And one of the big things in our industry now is that the travel teams are pulling a lot of kids from the recreational leagues.
Okay.
And he tells me that on the West Coast, to combat that, the rec leagues are starting to try to use a lot nicer uniforms because these travel teams are going to use branded goods and so forth. So he said that I needed to be on the lookout for rec leagues using a lot nicer styles to try to combat that, try to hold on to some of these kids. So I think we can look for the nicer styles across the board, even in the rec leagues. And typically, baseball trends start on the West Coast. So whatever you see out there this year, it's usually a couple years or so, sometimes 3, before it'll actually reach across to the Cincinnati area where I live.
Sure. So you kind of encourage decorators to really not be afraid of showing perhaps a higher price point even to the rec leagues at this particular time?
Exactly. They should start now showing that as an option. It may still be a little early in the Midwest for that to take hold, but they need to start making people aware of it, because as that trend comes across the country, they'll be able to sell a higher end product.
Good, good. At Stahls TV Morning Show and Stahls TV in general, we have a lot of brand new businesses or new decorators. So what's one piece of advice that you'd share on the team and league business for somebody looking to get into it? What should they know?
Well, the biggest thing I would tell people, especially on the league market, is a lot of times they're scared to death of it because it's tight margins, it's lower margins.
Okay.
But they need to not let that be a deterrent to them. That's actually a great tool for a startup business, okay? Because it's about getting your business name out there in front of 200, 400, even 500 families all at one time. Okay. And you can't worry about the money that you do or don't make on that initial order. You don't want to lose money on it.
Sure.
But it's all about the residual income. You're getting your business name out there in front of all these families at one time, and those same people need, personalized gifts, parent shirts, family reunion shirts. There's all kinds of business there, and you don't have to give them the Little League discount when you go get that business.
Right. It's almost like a break-even marketing expense for the greater.
It's an advertising that you can still make a little money on.
Sure.
But it's a great tool for your startups.
Excellent. Well, sounds like some helpful advice. We're going to keep this interview short and sweet. There's a whole series that Doug has done for us on team and league business that you'll be able to find within the upcoming month on stahlstv.com. So we'd encourage you to register. We'd also encourage you to check out the website, bowmarksportswear.com, and consider setting up an account or requesting a catalog for them. Thanks for joining us today and sharing information with our viewers.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So again, we want to thank Doug for the insight that he gave us in the interview. He certainly has some unique perspective and a ton of experience in team and league business, and we appreciate him taking the time to come into the Stahls TV studios and share that with us. Now, we have somebody on staff here at the Stahls TV Morning Show that has some unique perspective into the cheerleading market, and we're going to turn it over to Courtney Kay for this edition of Make It Your Market.
I'm Courtney Kay, and this is Make It Your Market. Welcome to this week's episode of Make It Your Market. In keeping with the evolution of the sporting good industry, we're going to talk this week about cheer uniforms and kind of the cheer market and how we take it and really make it our own and really be able to print for this market that's really growing. So the uniforms and the marketplace itself for cheerleading is really starting to evolve in what we're offering to our customers and where the industry is starting to go as far as who's buying what. According to the National Federation of High School Sports, there are actually 400,000 students that participate in cheerleading every single year. That is a ton of opportunity for us as decorators to offer them not only uniforms, but a variety of packages. And the cheerleading market can actually be broken into two different segments. So on one side of the spectrum, we have your local schools and their cheer squads, and you know them well because they are the ones that are cheering on the sports and the other teams that you're decorating for. On the other side, we have the all-star team. So all-star cheer squads are very similar to travel teams. They're kind of the elite in their class, and they work hard to compete and do a lot of competitions and different performances, but they're not really cheering on a team. So what different markets are looking for are separate depending on which classification that they fall into. I'm actually going to switch over to my computer here, and we're going to talk a bit about the product offering and how important it is to securing business in both of these markets. If you're looking to get into the cheer and the all-star cheer teams, this is really the area that's evolving the most in the cheer market and one that's really growing in participation and really is just as the travel teams are. So if you're looking to sell to this market, make sure you're going to show them your best quality products and stay on top of trends like all over sublimation that we're showing here and just help them really stand out with different bling and full color bright elements. Now when sourcing sublimated garments like I have here, there's a couple of different sources and ways that you can do that. Of course, as we look here on the computer, there are a few different suppliers in the industry that do sell full all-over sublimation if you don't have these capabilities in-house, but you want to offer these garments. Here I'm at Chase Cheer, which offers a lot of different practice items and uniforms. You're able to source the full-color all-over sublimation garments from them and then go outside of there to print your own t-shirts and package everything together if you don't have the capabilities in-house. Of course, if you have the all-over sublimation capabilities in-house and can do the printing, then go ahead and do that. It's really one of the great ways to break into this market in this industry. Now, of course, the most common side of the cheer market, aside from the all-star cheer teams that all of us are familiar with, are the local schools, and we all have opportunities to sell into this market. Again, this image was taken from GTM Sportswear and just showing some of the new trends with garments. Now, when selling to schools, there are some regulations, so you're not seeing the same bright colors all over prints for this marketplace. We're going to focus more on traditional style of garments, again with a little bit more of a performance atmosphere and adding bling like metallics, glitters, rhinestones, all of that in the applique and in the prints that are on these cheer squads. So that's another unique way to, again, offer new finishes and sell more to these customers. When you're selling to these schools, keep in mind, separate from the elite squads, value is very important to these groups. So you're going to want to package together items such as jackets, bags, hair bows, shoes, socks, all of that in one package and really show them the value that they're getting to use you as a supplier. If you're looking to source these garments, of course you want to print as much as possible, so you want to find a supplier like Teamwork Athletic or Augusta Sportswear or somewhere that sells all of these products at one stop, so you can order the bodysuits, the camp wear, the cheer shells, skirts, all of that, print them for your customers, and then offer them a package deal so they're getting a value for their customers and being able to print more for them. So I'll switch back to the main camera here as we kind of conclude and talk about the different segments that we have for making it your market with cheer squads. So now that you've seen the two areas, the all-star market and the school market, decide which one's best for your business depending on the area that you're in geographically and what's offered, what's out there for you for prospects. If you're in a large city that has a lot of cheer gyms, the all-star market might be perfect for you to start to go after and take that business. If not, everybody has local schools, and their cheer squads, whether it's high school or the grassroots programs like elementary and middle school, offer more opportunities for you to sell them valuable packages to those customers. Hopefully I've given you some information to get started selling into this market. Thanks for watching.
Great info, Courtney. Thanks for that. That concludes this episode of the Stahls TV Morning Show. We hope we've given you some valuable information on how you can penetrate the evolving market of the sporting goods industry. So we hope to see you back here next week at 11 a.m.